Relationships, the big R word.
He says to Adam, this is not right. Man must have a partner, basically.
But with sexual immorality, we're called to flee. Kills me to know that during that time I was so blinded that I hurt her that much.
Then what's the point? God does not want that.
This is a hard question.
Get your hands up, yeah.
Brandon, I want you to start us off today.
What is going on, guys? This is Brandon and Gavin back again. Episode 4 of the Grain of Salt podcast.
The number one podcast that you should take with a grain
of salt. You may be wondering, what are we talking about today?
What are we talking about,
I'm glad you asked, Gavin. We're going to be talking about relationships and why it's important to have biblical faith in your relationships and what that looks like.
I love that. I think this is a big episode for both of us because personally, this is one of the things I think I can relate to. I've been through the most and I can speak on the most.
I feel that.
Yeah. But starting us off here, we need a little icebreaker. I feel like
icebreaker. Why don't we start off with a story about each of us will share a story of our past, like our relationships and why it didn't work.
Oh. We're going to do it. No.
Hey,
off the start. No,
I'm tripping.
We
We need to do icebreaker. All
Julian,
right.
can you think of an icebreaker back there or no?
You got this.
What kind of icebreaker?
Just any question or any topic to talk about.
You guys were just coming up with one. What was
Okay. The
the darkest thing you guys have ever
Oh,
you
God.
guys can never think of?
The darkest thing that's ever happened to us. Let's do something lighter. What's your?
Darkest thing you guys could ever think of?
We asked this one earlier. Your least favorite workout in the gym and why?
Okay. All right. I'm going to say least favorite body part.
Okay.
Back for me.
I agree with that 100%.
I don't know. I feel like we were talking about this before the podcast. Every muscle group that I hit, I feel like I feel good after. I feel like I have a good pump or whatever, except for back. I feel like back is just kind of
It's just lame.
It's just back.
I feel like the way I thought about it is I think chest is my favorite, and then, or I guess upper body or push, and then legs is number 2, and this is why. Legs, I see the most difference in the numbers week by week, and then chest, it's I see progression, but it's also some days on chest you'll just be benching like crazy, doing all this heavy weight, and then other days you'll have bad days. The bad days are bad. The good days are awesome. Whereas back, it's just every day is just mid. You'll never be dude, I feel so strong today. I can do 10 more pull-ups than I could do the other day.
Bro, you want to hear a life hack?
What's the life hack?
If you want to grow an area of your body, get a tattoo. Because I got a tat on my leg. I never hit legs ever. And then after I got my tat, I was so subconscious about my legs. I was I got to grow them now that I got the tat there. I got to show it off.
Wait, say that again? You got to shave your legs?
No, a tattoo.
Oh, a tattoo. I don't know why. I was just thinking about shaving my legs.
Also, some guys shave their legs. So,
when I was
make it look bigger.
When I was a swimmer, I used to swim in high school.
Oh, so you shaved your legs?
I used to shave it.
How was
my
the process
body.
of that? I've always wondered.
Dude, I don't know how girls do it. I kid you not. Maybe it's because I'm not usually they're prickly and then they just shave. It takes them I don't know, 20, 30 minutes maybe. It took me 3-4 hours to get a full shaving. I don't know how people did it.
That's crazy.
I will say I never really cut myself. So
see, that's all that matters.
Hey.
But guys, real quick before we jump in, you might be asking yo, where are you guys today? You guys are in this a cool area, a cool space. Brandon, where are we right now, bro?
I don't even know.
So
we're in this podcast studio. That I don't know. We just got connections like that, man. You know.
No, it's God, guys. God's been opening doors for us. Been big blessings after blessings.
Oh, yeah. That's what I
real
meant.
quick, Leah, we just want to thank you, Leah. We're in Leah's space today. She's letting us use it, and hopefully we're gonna be doing a lot more episodes here. I know we do in the future want to do a beach episode, sunrise. So you guys stay tuned for that because that's gonna happen sometime.
Lovely lady, by the way.
Yeah,
Leah's awesome.
Leah's amazing. We love Leah. But yeah, if you guys want to see me and Brandon box, hit the like button. But yeah, I guess
I'm down.
But yeah, let's get into it. Relationships, the big R word. Relationships are very interesting, right? Because I think this generation places a lot of emphasis and value on this idea of being inside of a relationship. And Relationships are amazing. I've been in 2. Have you been in 1, right?
I've been in a couple, yeah. I'd
Couple.
say I'd give like 2 probably.
2.
Yeah, 2
Yeah.
maybe 3.
But yeah, it's interesting relationships because there's so many right and so many wrong things to do, and it's hard to know exactly what those things are until you're in them. But we kind of just want to share some wisdom because we've been through it, some of the experiences we've had, and also how to have a biblical relationship straight out of the Bible.
Yeah, I know. I will say, I'm a young guy, so I don't have as many, like maybe some older people would have some different problems because my relationships have been more like when I was younger, like 18-year-old kid, which I mean, that's pretty young. No, but I will say it's a lot easier to know what's right than to actually do what's right because like what I'm about to say and speak about is what I believe how you should live your life or live with your partner in a relationship based off your faith and the Bible. But as you can see, I'm single, so obviously it didn't work because I was doing something wrong. So just because I say it doesn't mean I'm perfect.
His Instagram is Brandon Stebbins for any ladies out there who might be interested.
I'm 6'7", by the way, and I am a feminist.
He weighs 230 pounds. He's very jacked.
Bench 275. Hit me up.
And he's man of God. Man of God. Number one thing that matters.
Yeah. I love Jesus.
Also, real quick, guys, before we do get into this, just want to thank Julian behind the camera. He's Julian, get up here real quick, bro. Let's say what's up.
I'm too tall.
Come sit right here.
Yeah, come sit here real quick.
No, I'll just stand very tall and do a face reveal when I'm on.
All right, Julian, if you could tell the audience one sentence of advice, what would it be?
Hey, I'm dreaming.
Don't let anyone do you wrong. And don't
Hey.
let someone say no to you. Just follow your dreams and live in God's presence and experience it at a whole new level. Eventually I'll be on one of Gavin's Grand Salt podcasts where you'll see a face reveal unless you go check out my social medias. God bless you all and give it up for Gavin and Brandon.
Hey, 1 million likes, face reveal.
That was a bit of a
Nothing less.
run-on sentence right there. It's supposed to be one. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, guys.
Get out of here, Julian.
Wouldn't be possible without Julian behind the camera, so just want to thank you, bro. Yeah,
Wait, have you ever seen this? Makes me think of something. You ever seen the Joe Rogan Experience?
I've seen some of the episodes.
His camera dude's name is Jamie.
I did not
Well,
know
his
that.
guy's name is Jamie, and sometimes he like gets so mad at Jamie. Like it's not like he gets mad at him or whatever, but if he like doesn't pull something out like quickly, he's like, Jamie, what are you doing?
Yeah, well, we need a screen in here for Julian to pull stuff up.
Julian.
So, do you want to start us off here with this?
Sure, why not? I might start off with a question. Probably, I'll just ask it to you first.
All right.
I'll say, in your most recent relationship, I'm talking about the one from high school.
Right.
What was right and what was wrong? Like what made it? What was the unbiblical part, or what was the reason that you think y'all got wrong? What'd you get right? What'd you get wrong? Start with the good stuff.
I think before I want to like talk about anything, I'm gonna be very vulnerable on this podcast, and that's something I told myself going into this episode, because I know that there's like a lot of people out there who probably are going through or have gone through or are going to go through what I went through, and I just want to first like preface this by saying, if people listening to this know who I was in a relationship with, like this is not me dissing, this is not me hating, because in all honesty, like that relationship, I'm so grateful for. Like it taught me so much. I think some of my best memories that I've ever made were with this person in my relationship. And I don't want to sit here and name drop or anything, because I don't want to like bring light to it if people don't know. But genuinely, like I have nothing but love and respect for this person. And to kind of start off, I think the reason that I'm going to say we're not together anymore, and then I'll jump into the good and bad. But I think that in life, and I think this is true for anything, not just relationship-wise, God will bless and he will anoint what glorifies him. Mm-hmm. And I think that if something in life is not glorifying God, it's doing the opposite and it's pulling you away from him, he's not going to protect that or bless that. And our relationship, it was good. It was great. It was amazing. But it did not have God in the center at all. And when things went bad in it, I believe that God ended it or allowed it to end because it wasn't glorifying to him. And like what you guys got to realize is if God truly loves you, and he does, and he knows that something is hurting you, he won't allow it to keep going on. And so like when it first ended, my immediate reaction was like, why would she break up with me? Like, screw this, right? Like I was upset. I was mad at God, and I was like, God, why would you let this happen? But in reality, I believe God let it happen because he loved me so much. He wanted me to deliver me from this thing that was pulling me away from him. And so the good and bad, I would say the good was it was fun. It was exciting. It was someone to love, you know, it was someone to love me back. But I think the bad is that I idolized her over God. We did things that were definitely not meant to be out of marriage. We became very toxic and insecure. And when it went south and when things went wrong, instead of turning to God and searching for my value in him, I was searching for the wrong places in the world and trying to fill this void that only God could fill.
Okay. All right, I'll share my story real quick. And I want to just say the same thing as him. The person I'm talking about, I'm sure many people listening will know who this is about. And I have nothing negative to say about this person because I think they're an amazing person. And they're wanting to know Jesus, or they do know Jesus. They love him very much. And this is a very great person. I'll say the good things first, and then I'll say why it went south. So when I first met this woman, this girl, she had just gone out of a lot of bad things, and she was kind of like in a process of turning her life around, you would say. And I was attracted to that. I thought that the idea of somebody like, she really wanted to know Jesus, or to get closer to Jesus, not just know him, to get closer to him. And she really wanted to stop doing these bad things that she recognized that were bad. And when we started dating like super quickly. Like, we met over the first day of spring break, and we hung out like every single day of spring break. And then after that, we started dating after like a month. Like, it was super quick. And everything was great. Like, we got along. We had fun together, and we went to church together. We read the Bible together. I would say we had a very loving relationship for a while. And I think where it went wrong is, I'm only going to say the thing that I think I did wrong, because I don't think that's fair to call somebody out like that.
Right.
I'm going to read a verse real quick. I know it's in James. Okay, this is NIV. This is a very, very popular verse. James 1, verse 19. My dear brothers and sisters, take note of this. Everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. I will say even to this day, I'm still working on it. I am not very good at this. When I was in this relationship, once it got about like halfway through, I started to, if I ever disagreed with something she did, I would try to argue it until I was right. But I think I need to realize that God is love, and being right doesn't make it love. Okay, like maybe you are right, but if you want to be right, but it's not out of love, then what's the point? God does not want that. So maybe you want to be right, but that's not what God wants. Being right is not worth losing that peace and love in a relationship. And where was I? I was quick to get aggravated. So the problem is that this woman had struggles, and we all have struggles of our own, and I'm sure she still has struggles, just as I do. And we had different struggles, And since I had some struggles that she didn't have, and she had struggles that I personally didn't have, I thought of myself as a judge, which is not the right thing to do. We are not the judges. Only God is the judge. So for me to think that I have the right to just judge her and basically say, stop doing these things. This is bad. Now, it's okay to bring light to the situation. Like, you shouldn't be doing such and such and such as it's leading you away from God. The way I handled it was probably too aggressive, too much talking over one another, too many negative things in the way I handled it. And I was obviously too late to see the fact that I need to accept that she has these struggles and work through them with her, I would say. And also, like, I was not a great man. Like, I had a girl best friend whenever we were dating, and I would say that the relationship me and my girl best friend had is definitely not something that I would have, now being the man I am today, is not something that I would approve of. Like, if it was the other way around, I would have definitely been like, that's too far, too much, you need to stop that. So I would say, yeah, I was judgy. You need to think about the feelings of your partner first and understand that just because you don't have that struggle doesn't mean that they don't have that struggle.
Do you think you led
the relationship?
Yeah.
In terms of faith?
In terms of this idea that men are supposed to lead in a relationship, do you think you did that?
I think she definitely respected me enough to let me lead, because she's a very outgoing person. Like, you know me. I'm a very talkative man, and I like to get my opinion out there, you would say. She was too, very, very much so. She liked to talk, and just like me, no hate. But yeah, she respected me, and I think I did lead the relationship. In most points, some points she probably did. But yeah, what about you?
I don't know. I feel like sometimes I did lead, and sometimes I didn't. I've had a lot of time to reflect, and I think if I could have gone back and changed a lot of the things that I did, I would. I would almost agree with you in the sense of, I feel like while I was with her, I did have like girlfriends, and like I didn't obviously have any feelings or anything for them, but I do think that like the way I would interact or like be with them, like it was probably disrespectful. And as a man, to be able to sit there and admit that, like when everything first happened, like, dude, she would point these things out to me, and I would literally sit there and be like, you're tripping, like you need to stop being insecure. But like, looking back on that, I see how it could have upset her, and like it just kills me and hurts me to know that, like, because I'm a different person now, it kills me to know that during that time I was so blinded to that I hurt her that much.
Here's something you just reminded me of something. I was reading up on like healthy relationships and biblical relationships, and I saw this. This is not a quote. This is just a thing I seen on the internet. It says having humility in a relationship means listening to what your partner has to say.
Are we on time?
Listening to what your partner has to say, valuing your partner's perspective, and admitting when you're wrong. And that is 100% something that I fall very short of. Would you agree with that?
I think humility is hard because everyone is born with an ego.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard, especially as a man, to put your pride aside and say, I messed up. I think it's one of the hardest things you do as a man. Because as men, like, I feel like we are supposed to lead, and like, who wants to be seen as a leader and also be seen as they did something wrong, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's one of the most. What is it? How am I? I think as a leader, one of the best things you can do is have humility, because I feel like it shows people that you're human too, and you mess up, but you don't have this God complex that like you did nothing wrong. You're perfect, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think Jesus was humble, and the fact that he would serve others. And obviously, he never messed up, so there's nothing he could have admitted fault for. But the Bible is very big on having humility. I have a bunch of things written down, the characteristics of how a man should act in a godly relationship, and humility is one of them. And for the verse I have for humility is Proverbs 11:12, and it says, "When pride comes, then comes disgrace, but with humility comes wisdom." And I would say sometimes I was humble, and sometimes a lot of the times I would admit my faults, but there was a lot of times when I wouldn't,
Yeah. Yeah, when I think of humility, when I think of Jesus, you notice that almost everybody honored Jesus. And I think that humility causes you to become an honored man.
Right.
Because when you openly accept other opinions and empathize with them, and then they'll just start to listen to you more, and they tend to like you more. Whenever you don't like to not be heard. Nobody likes to not be heard. So making sure you listen to others, which I will say one more time, I am terrible at, is something that any Christ man should understand how to do.
We need to get like a counter on the screen of how many times Brandon this episode is going to talk about how bad he is with listening.
I'm bad listening, guys.
I feel like you're doing pretty good right now with me.
I'm trying to get better.
Don't be so hard on yourself.
All right. I have a question that I think a lot of people will be interested in.
All right, let's hear it.
There's some alternate opinions. The idea of having sexual relations before marriage, what does that mean to you?
This is a hard question. I think before I do go into this, though, I think there is a very right answer. And I want to just bring up the topic that we were talking about on the last podcast. And it's this idea of the line of sin. And people will live life saying, how close can I get to this line before I'm sinning? And basically, if you didn't watch the last episode, Brandon he made a very good point where as Christians, we should be living our life 5 feet behind the line. Because if you live up on the line, any slip up will cause you to stumble over it and go into this area of sin. But if you're living behind the line, 5 feet behind it, then even if you have a slip up, you're going to be fine because you're not fumbling and falling over into this line of sin. But sexual immorality is very, very clear in the Bible. It's one of the only sins that the Bible literally says to flee from. Mm-hmm. And I think there's a reason that we're supposed to flee. Some areas of scripture are not, some things in the Bible you can rebuke, some things you can combat with scripture, but with sexual immorality, we're called to flee. What do you think that says about how big of a deal it is?
I think that there's something I've noticed in the Bible. There are some sins, we're just going to focus on sexual immorality. They say to flee from, and there's not that many where he's so prominent on the idea that don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. Right. And I think we see it in nowadays. So many men, I'm just going to use men because I'm a man. So many men fall into sexual immorality and they're just overwhelmed by it and can't get out of it and they're in this endless cycle and can never get out of it. And I think that I believe that it is the most overwhelming majority of men that are Christian men. I think that if they have one sin that they can't break loose from, it's their sexual immorality.
Is there? I feel like there's got to be a statistic on that. Is there one?
I'm sure there is. You pull it up while I keep speaking this. But Julian, get the stats. No, I'm just kidding. So in the Bible, God, Paul's writing. I'm pretty sure this is 1 Corinthians. I could be wrong. Let me pull it up real quick. Yes. Okay. So this is not in the incomplete context, so don't take what I say to be like direct. 1 Corinthians 7-9. But each man has his own gift from God. One has this gift, another has that. Now to the unmarried and the widows I say, it is good for them to stay unmarried, as I am. But if they cannot control themselves, they should marry, for it is better to marry than burn with passion. So basically what God did in a very direct viewpoint is he basically gave us a way out. He understood that men could never overcome their sexual immorality, or some it would be so hard that they needed a way out, and that's what he gave us. He gave us marriage so that if you're one of those men who literally cannot control themselves and is burning in their desires and their selfish passions, that you should get married if you cannot control yourself. And there's not many sins where God gives us a way out. Usually God's like, seek me, seek me, seek me, and you need to fix this, basically. Like your dirty mouth, he's not going to be like, oh, if you just use this word, it's not a sin. No, he's just like, okay, this is bad, fix it.
45% of marriages end in divorce because of a pornography addiction.
Wow.
I think that goes to show how many men struggle with lust. And if we're looking at the idea of sexual immorality, I think lust is probably the number one thing that men deal with in regards to, like, we're talking about sexual things.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we're going to do a separate episode on porn eventually. Sure. We actually have a pretty cool guest lined up for that eventually, so make sure you guys stay tuned for that. But yeah, there's a very big reason that the Bible says flee. If you look at the story of Joseph in Genesis, when Potiphar's wife is asking Joseph to sleep with him, what does he do? He runs out of the house. He literally flees from her. Mm-hmm. And I think that not enough men, when it comes to this and relationships, flee from it, right? I think if we're gonna discuss this, I think we should lay down what this pertains to in a relationship. I think that if you're in a relationship with a girl and you guys are not married, there's a lot of things that it's gray area.
I would disagree with that. Now, okay, never mind. Okay, continue. There is some gray area.
I just mean the gray area is we're not having sex, so it's okay. So oral. There's a lot of people that's oral's okay.
I think the gray area that people like to think about, we're not having sex, it's fine. I believe that there is a gray area, but I don't think that it is as gray as people would like. I think that our selfish desires blind us and make the gray area much nicer and to our likings, basically. In that sense, that somewhere in I think it's Numbers, it talks about how any relations with a woman that you would do with your wife, but not just a friend, that you would be considered not a virgin. Which is that there's gray area.
Really?
There's definitely gray area in what I just said. Because, I'm not going to kiss my friend. That's weird. But does that mean I'm not a virgin? I don't know. Now, there is some stuff I will say about kissing where it's you can't kiss your friends. Greet thy friend with a holy kiss. You ever read that?
I have read that before.
But, any type of, if you're pleasuring your wife or husband or anything in that sort, and you know what I mean, I would say any version of it is not, you would no longer be a virgin.
Wait, it says this in Numbers?
It could be Numbers, could be Deuteronomy, or Leviticus, because
I don't think, because we read Leviticus at the Bible study, and I don't remember any of that.
It's definitely, it's in the Bible. I know, because I read it in the last month or two. I just don't remember what book it was.
It says that if you do anything with a woman that you're not married to that you would with your wife.
That's not the words. Those are not the words. But that's what I got from it. This is don't take it with a grain of salt. Go read it yourself. This is just what I think about it. When it comes to biblically becoming a virgin, if you touch a woman and have sexual relations with a woman, I don't want to. The words are so weird. Sorry. Okay, let me read something. So a lot of people think there's a gray. I've met people who like to have sex with their girlfriend or boyfriend and do other things because they think, there's gray area, because in the Bible there was no girlfriends or boyfriends. They just went straight to husband and wife. So they're like, well, modern day, we're husband and wife because we're together. And I like to come in here and say that is so false.
Oh, so speak to him, Brandon. Speak to him.
Before the Battle of Jericho, all of these soldiers were gathered up, and basically Joshua told all the people who were casting out the soldiers all these restrictions on if you were these things, then you need to come home and not fight. And one of the things was if you are coveted to a woman but not yet married, go home, marry her, and raise a family or start a family. Which that means that you are coveted. That means you're with this woman but not yet married. Which I don't know about you guys. In my brain, that I think of like dating in a sense. It doesn't say dating, obviously. But there was obviously some period of time between, oh, hello, my name is Brandon, and
marriage.
Will you be my wife?
Yeah.
Like, there's obviously a middle ground. And marriage is, in that sense, if you're going to have sex before marriage, then you should also know that it's a sin if you guys break up. If you're treating it like a marriage in the divorce in the Bible is a sin. You should not be divorced. There are some exceptions, like if you be cheated on.
Or if you're abused.
Yeah, there's a couple.
Yeah. But also, real quick to add to that, even if you divorce someone for a reason other than those, and you remarry someone and have sexual relations, it literally says that that's adultery.
Really?
Yeah.
So even if it's exceptions based.
No, if you divorce someone based on the part of sexual immorality or abuse, then it's okay. But if you divorce them for any other reason, and then you go and sleep with someone else, even though you're married, it's considered adultery.
Yeah. I'm okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
And let me read this real quick. Okay. Hebrews 13:4. I think this is NIV. God recognizes covenants. He recognizes husband and wife, not girlfriend or boyfriend. He honors. Wait a second.
Are those your notes?
These are my notes. Hold up. I don't think that's Hebrew. Sorry, let me just read this. I'm not quoting the Bible. God recognizes covenants. He recognizes husband and wife, not girlfriend or boyfriend. He honors marriage relationships, not temporary boyfriend or girlfriend relationships. Any relationship other than marriage that involves sex or sexual immorality is dishonorable and will be judged. So, sorry. That is Hebrews 13, verse 4. Any relationship other than marriage that involves sex or sexual morality is dishonorable and will be judged. So, unless you have a ring around your finger, can't be having sexual relations.
I'm going to add on to that. I believe that the Bible's big on lust. And I don't think a man can truly lust after his wife, because I believe that if it's your wife, it's okay. It's acceptable because God's given that to you. Right? You're allowed to lust after your wife.
You cannot commit sexual sexual immorality with your wife other than like if you're abusing her or if you're raping, like something that's not consensual. Like,
no, obviously. I'm just saying though that if you were to lust after your wife when you're within marriage, then it's all right.
That's not even possible. It's not considered.
Well,
lust.
it's not even considered.
Yeah. But yes.
So by that logic, that would mean that everything outside of marriage, if you were to do, would be considered lustful.
Like looking at a woman and undressing her with your eyes.
If I'm looking at a woman, and I'm like thinking about her, if I'm doing something, a little crazy or something, and I'm thinking about her, that's considered lust. If you're with her, if you guys are doing oral, that's lust. If you guys are doing sex, that's lust, because she's not your wife.
Yeah,
it's just a girl that's honestly like, you might like her, you might have intense feelings for her, you might love her, but if you're using her to gratify your sexual desires, it's lust, right? Mm-hmm. So when it comes to like gray area, like is oral okay? Like no, it's lust. It's a sexual immorality because she's not your wife. And I think a lot of people look at this. I used to say like it's okay to do that stuff because I would make excuses for why it was justifiable for me, but it's not. It's not okay at all. And to go off of that, I have a question for you. Mm-hmm. For myself and for a lot of viewers, I'm sure. What if you have done that? What if you have been in a relationship that isn't marriage and you have messed up and you have stumbled with sexual morality? Is there a way to redeem yourself?
Obviously, I think you repent and you pray about it and you actively try to not repeat like the offense, I guess. And I will say once it happens one time, a lot of people fall under the category of I've already done it before, so I might as well just do it again. And I will say that is a very hard thing. Like even with other sins, like that's a very hard thing it's a very tempting thing. Because it's like, oh, if I just made a lie about my grades, right? If I just do it again, I've already done it once. Like it comes easier the more you do it. So noticing that what you're doing is wrong and acknowledging it and praying to God and repenting through your mouth, confessing from your tongue out loud to God, I think is a huge thing, because keeping it to yourself is just going to lead you to more temptation.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I have a question
right.
about post relationships.
Uh-oh.
So
I could speak on this forever.
yeah, same. So let me read this verse real quick. Oh, let me say something about the Christian faith. So this is just kind of a thing. If you realize that the modern world, our ideas of morals happen to just fall in line with Christianity. Not everybody, but just some of the basics of Christianity, lots of them fall in line with just the way humans think. I don't think that's a coincidence. Some people do. Let me give you an example.
I don't think it's a coincidence either.
So after you break up with somebody, you're not going to want them to go trash you online or go tell all their friends and your friends and their family, your family, about all these terrible things you did, maybe exaggerating it, maybe not. Like, you don't want that, right? That's not even like biblical. That's just what I'm saying. Now, the Bible, Leviticus 19:18 NIV, do not seek revenge or bear a grudge against anyone among your people, but love your neighbor as yourself. I am the Lord. Okay. What does that mean to you? Like when it comes to post-relationships, when it comes to having revenge and holding grudges, how do you deal with getting rid of those grudges and seeing peace through somebody who may have wronged you?
Something I was going to bring up later, but I mean, we can bring it up now, is forgiveness. And I think forgiveness is one of the hardest things to do in life. And I think when somebody wrongs you, it is so easy to sit there and just want to repay them or do them worse. And that's how I've always been. Whenever someone hits me, I want to hit them back harder, you know?
Yeah.
And there were times in a relationship after, then yeah, I did do that. And what you got to realize is that God came to earth and he forgave us by sending his son to die for our sins. That is not something we ever, ever, ever could have deserved. And when you can fully, as a Christian, sit there and realize that, it is so much easier to turn around and forgive other people. And God didn't just do this. He told us and he's called us to do the same to people who wrong us and do wrong to us. And it makes sense. It makes it a little bit easier to forgive people. It still doesn't make it completely easy. Like, it's still hard to forgive people. But yeah, like after the relationship, when I fully did not have God in my life, I did seek revenge. And it brought me to one of the lowest points of my entire life. Because when you hold a grudge against someone, it is not affecting them. It's only affecting you. And instead of searching for God and finding him to fill my void, I was searching in the world, and it only brought me down even farther. And forgiveness is something I'm still working on. But I fully feel like I've forgiven this girl. Very recently, I would say I still had a grudge. But as Christians, if we do not forgive people, it says we can't even go to the altar and ask God for a request. It says do not go to God and make a request to him if you have forgiveness or if you have hatred harbored in your heart against someone. And so when it comes to wanting to get revenge, it is so easy, but it is not what you should do. And I think deep down everyone knows that. And I think the whole idea of a breakup is so stupid because you go from caring about someone so much and loving them so much to you both have just hurt each other. So you just go down this deep road of just causing more hurt and more pain. When in reality, it's just easier to just walk away and say, you know what? You may have wronged me. You may have hurt me. But I know you're not perfect. I'm not perfect either. I'm going to choose to forgive you just as God has forgiven me. And when you can do that, I believe it gives so much more peace and clarity in your life. And I think it would help relationships so much if they don't work out after the fact.
Yeah, what are some ways, I know now, from my experience, the ways that I guess me and the other person has coped with the breakup, usually it's through negative things toward the other person. So it's like their friends will come and be like, "Oh, he was this and that." So like he's bad, he's a bad guy anyway. Or my friends would be like, "Oh, she's this and that." So like, yeah, she was bad anyway, or we didn't like her, or stuff like this. These are negative things to try and turn your eyes, basically turn you guys directly at 180 away from where you just were, which I think is a bad thing. So how do you think? What are some positive ways to deal with the breakup?
Well, for one thing, what you just said is a perfect example. I think do not listen to what others say. And I think this is very dangerous in relationships too. And I witnessed this. But if you care so much about what your friends say, then at the end of the day, their opinions are going to impact how you feel towards someone or something or some situation. And that's why I feel like it's very important to be with someone that is they only listen to God and they only care what God thinks. Because if they're going around listening to what other people around them are saying, like, yeah, when your friends see you going through a tough time, odds are they're not just going to sit there and be like, oh, he was a great guy or she was a great girl, because that's just going to hurt you more. They're going to make you feel good and justify it in the reason why you guys aren't together anymore. So they're going to spew out stuff just like you're saying, like, oh,
Yeah.
you're better than them. You deserve better. But that might not even be the case, you know?
Yeah.
And so if you're listening to all these opinions around you, which honestly, God speaks to people, but so does Satan. So if you're listening to these people and they're not lifting you up, but instead tearing you down or influencing you or telling you to do things you wouldn't normally do, just going to harm you, man. Just going to bring you down to a dark hole in a dark place. Like, you should only care about what the Bible says, not what the people around you say.
So after my last breakup, not a past, an old friend of mine. He's still my friend. He's 2 years older than me, and he's a youth pastor now. He told me that even though what your friends are saying about this woman that maybe hurt you or you hurt them, and you're no longer talking to, even though what they're saying might be true, if it's of hatred, it's not from God. Even though you might like what they're saying, and deep down you're just like, yeah, like keep saying these things, like, oh, even though they might be true, if it's hatred, it's not from God. And I will say, in my last relationship, I definitely have many regrets after the breakup, like things I said about the person. Like I wish I would have never done that, and my emotions obviously got the best of me. And I'm sure I'll fail again one day. But
Right.
I just think that these experiences are good to have.
And I think that's the thing, right? Like, I think at the time it seems like, oh, this is the worst thing that's ever happened. But, like, we learned through experience. And, like, I would say now I'm equipped even more than ever for my next relationship. But talking on the aspect of relationships, something that I have written down here is characteristics that I think we as men should possess in a godly relationship. And, like, to all the girls out there, don't just tune off, because I think this is important also for you to hear, to know what you should look for. But for all the guys out there, I think these are characteristics that we should be equipped with before we are ready to go into our next relationship. One of them is humility. We touched on a little bit. One of them is commitment. I think that you should be a man of commitment to your partner. Genesis 2:24 says, "Man shall leave his father and mother and hold fast to his wife, and they shall become one in flesh." When you become married to someone, you are literally joining them in one. And so if you cannot commit to them and not stay committed to just them, obviously this is not a characteristic that a godly man possesses. They should be able to show love. Ephesians 5:21 says, submitting to one another out of reverence for Christ. A godly man should be forgiveful. They should forgive easily. Ephesians 4:32 says, be kind and compassionate to one another, forgiving each other just as Christ forgave you. You should be faithful, and you should be a leader. And one question that I've always had that I wonder if you can answer is, it's this verse that I just read. Genesis 2:24, man shall leave his father and mother and hold fast to his wife, and they shall become one in flesh.
Yes.
This is referring to marriage, obviously.
Yeah.
does that mean? Because marriage itself, like the act of kissing a girl and signing papers, that's like by law.
Yeah.
In Christ and in spirit, do you become married to someone when you join, like with sex? Like, is that how that works, or is it still only referred to the law?
I'm not sure if I'm right, but
because that's something I've always like wrestled with.
I do think that it definitely is like a covenant, or yeah, I'm pretty sure that's supposed to be like. I know in a lot of other religions it is, like sometimes in the Bible or in other books, it'll say, and then they lied together, like referencing them becoming married, saying that they lied together, meaning I assume that means they had sex.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't take my word 100%, but I do think that it could be like the resemblance of
that, because that's what I've always
married.
thought. But like also like, I don't know. Like I believe that that's how soul ties happen, right? It's like your souls join together when you have sex with someone. And so by that logic, then I believe that would be marriage through your souls. But physically, like, I don't know if like you need like a priest or something to ordain that, if that's like a law in the Bible.
I'm not sure. But if we're talking about characteristics of love, I can't, obviously, this is probably the most famous.
Oh, this boy's about to pull up 1 Corinthians 13.
All right, he guessed it. 1 Corinthians 13, 4 through 5. Do you know it by heart?
Love is patient.
Love is patient.
Love is kind.
Love is kind.
It does not keep record of wrongs?
No, you're close.
Oh, okay.
It does not envy. All right, let me just restart.
Okay.
1 Corinthians 13, 4 through 5. Love is patient. Love is kind. Love does not envy. It does not boast. And it does not... Hold up. I wrote it down wrong.
Okay, hold up.
1 Corinthians... I found it, guys.
So you can find... You found it?
Okay. Love is patient. Oh, it does not proud. It is not proud. Oh, love is not proud. Sorry, I was reading that wrong. My brain was going crazy.
It does not dishonor others. It is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs.
Dude, where the heck are you reading?
My Bible?
Which one?
My Bible.
What's the verse?
Oh, I don't... Oh, 1 Corinthians 1... 1 Corinthians 13.
Dude, I must be tripping. Okay.
All right, I'm going to finish it off then. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres, and love never fails. There was a pastor that once spoke at Crew, which is our Christian organization in college, and they said that when you're reading this verse, you should substitute your name for love to see how well that you do loving others. So like an example would be Gavin is patient, Gavin is kind, Gavin does not envy, Gavin does not boast. And if you go through that whole list, you can kind of check yourself and say, wow, what do I do a good job of doing? What do I not do a good job of doing? So if you're listening at home, I implore you to go do this. 1 Corinthians 13, just look it up, verses 4 through 8, and test that out. But yeah.
I want to say something.
Go
So you talked about when you get married, you and your wife become one. And I like to talk to my mom recently about who the most important woman in my life was. And I was like, well, it's you. You're my mom.
It's a trap. It's a trap.
Of course you're you're the only woman that I love. And my sisters. And it brought up the idea that when you're born, the most important person in your life that's a woman is your mother. And then you get a wife, and you're supposed to leave your family, make your own family, and your wife becomes the most important person in your life. Even if you have kids, your wife is still on the top. Oh, it's God, your wife, your kids, and then your friends.
Right.
There's like you know how they're like, what comes first? God, work, friends, family. Like there's like a ladder. And I think the idea of just leaving and having one person be above the rest and giving your whole effort to this one person is like beautiful, because having two people in one life working simultaneously together is like what I envision God meaning when he says to Adam, or he looks at Adam and says, this is not right. Man must have a partner, basically. Like, I think that's just what I envision. I
Right.
envision two people perfectly in unity in God's love. Because, hey, God is love. So if God's not at the center of your relationship, it's not a relationship. Sorry. It's the wrong relationship.
I totally agree with that. Not that it's not a relationship. I think it's a wrong
Yeah, the
relationship.
wrong one.
Yeah. I mean, I think I will stick by this because this is what I went through. I believe if it does not glorify God, he does not anoint it or bless it. And I think that if you look at Christ-centered relationships, you can look at those two people and be like, wow, God is working through them. God is in that relationship. He's blessing them. I think if you look at other relationships, ones that aren't, they tend to be very toxic. They tend to have a lot of insecurities in them, a lot of arguing.
Yeah, because
A lot
I'm
of
just
people
bad at
unsure of each
listening.
other.
I'm just bad at listening. This is what
And
happens.
I think that's because, one, God's not in the relationship. If he was, I think he would be able to work through both of you. And if you are having an issue, you and your partner will be able to be like, wow, we're having an issue. We're going to go to God and then we'll come to each other. But a lot of people don't do that because God is not in the relationship. And because that, I think a lot of relationships are just left on bad terms or ended bad because God isn't there to help them not. You know, he kind of takes his hand off it and says, you're not going to include me in this, so I'm not going to be part of it. Do what you want. And then when it crashes and burns, he's always there for you when you need him, but he's not going to sit there and keep this relationship together with his hand over it, you know?
Yeah. So I think as a good way to end it, I think that
Whoa, I'm not done yet.
You're not done?
I've got more stuff, bro. What you talking about?
Sorry.
In my notes here, I have a little column that says healing after heartbreak. I don't know if that sounds cliche, but I think a lot of times when people go through hardships and heartbreak specifically out of relationships, they don't take time to fully heal. And I think that there's a lot of issues when this happens. And I just have some things written down here that I just want to share on. Number one is you have to realize it wasn't their fault. We're all sinful people. We're all going to do each other wrong. And you need to learn to forgive them and realize that they're a broken person just as I am to fully heal. And if you don't, and you just stay stuck on what they did wrong to you, I don't think you'll ever heal from that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Think about it. If you're trying to be in a relationship with somebody and your goal is marriage, which it should always be, why would you go into a relationship not thinking about marriage? Like, you should always be thinking about, could I live the rest of my life with this woman? Is this the person I want to give my whole life to? Or give my whole, everything that I am, we are.
Right.
And this is something I struggle with because I would like to think that I'm a ladies' man. I like relationships.
Guys, this man is the Rizzler right here.
Stop. Stop. You're the Rizzler. Stop.
Bro, we both just have too much game, bro. It's a curse.
No, we don't. 6'5", by the way, drive a Lamborghini, feminist, hit me up. So basically, sorry, I take that back. I rebuke. What was I saying?
Marriage.
Giving your all to somebody. So I'm definitely I've fallen short of this. I think I've actually been doing good this year, of healing, taking time for myself, and not immediately trying to get into a relationship or date somebody. After my ex-girlfriend broke up with me, I basically went on a bunch of these dates, and I was just trying to go for like the most pretty woman I could find. And that's not good. And like the people I was going out with, they're all, by the way, I don't know if they're listening, all of these people, amazing people. Like I would basically, what I did, I looked at their resume or their portfolio, like, okay, I think you're attractive, you like Jesus, and you have nice parents. Like, I would just look at those three things and be like, okay, I'm gonna ask you out. So I asked them out, and we would go on a date. But like, this is like weeks, like a week or 2 weeks after I got broken up with. Like, I am in a grieving state. So half of my heart and my brain is still on another woman who wants nothing to do with me. So how can I possibly, like, I believe that I was disrespecting the woman that I was going out with, because I am going out with you and deceiving you, because I am giving half of who I am to you instead of all of who I am to you. And that is not fair on the other woman. And actually, and this is so much my fault. There were many people in high school who were, I would say most of them were girls, who told me to take like a period where you're like to stay single and basically heal. And I just didn't listen to them because I just love women, right? I just like women so much. They're just so fun to be around. And yeah, I never fully really healed. And I think I'm finally getting to that point in my life where I am kind of becoming to that spot of being fully healed, to where I can be ready to give my all to somebody else without having like a piece of my heart, like a hole in my heart that's still latched on to somebody else.
Right.
And I will say, when Paul talks about if you're a widow or if you're single, like stay single, like it's good you can do God's work in your singleness. And basically, what I got out of that is that Paul wants some people to, based off of what your gifts are. Singleness is good for undistracted devotion to the Lord. And I totally agree with that. If you're too busy worrying about what you look like for your girlfriend, where you're going to hang out, what the date's going to be like, what your text is, or if they're going to respond within the next 5 minutes, you're being distracted. And there are definitely better things you could do with your time. I'm not saying it's bad to have a wife. I actually think it's a great thing to have a wife or a woman in your life and devoting time to them. But I think that the Lord always comes first, because once again, even though your wife is the most important person in your life, God's above her.
Right. So back to the point, healing after heartbreak, I have a few more things. You have to realize that only Jesus can heal your void. Whenever you're going through that pain, do not turn to the world, because the world will never satisfy. It will only hurt you more. So when you are, or if you are ever at that point, you need to turn to Jesus and heal through that. Instant gratification is equivalent to hurting yourself in the long run. And I think that if, like Brandon was saying, if you don't take time to fully heal and you try to find that rebound or someone to fill you instead of God, you're going to hurt yourself more and you're going to hurt the person more. And it's this idea of don't bleed on someone who didn't cut you. It's not fair to you or that person, right? So when you are taking that time to heal, make sure you're doing it alone. Like usually when you come out of that season of being with someone for like so long, doing everything with them, and you're in this season of singleness by yourself, God wants to work through you and he wants to heal you. But if you don't take time to allow him to do that, then you're not really in a season of singleness. You're just trying to find a way to get out of that season of singleness instead of actually living in it.
Ooh, I heard this thing. My roommate next year, his name is Corbin. He runs a Bible study, and he one time spoke on instant gratification. Kind of like drugs. Like you take drugs to feel good for a little bit, and then you feel bad again, so you have to take it again to feel good. And eventually it drags you down a hole that it's hard to get out of. And there's this thing that actually was used in biblical times and is still used today in modern farming. So this is a farming tip. I don't know if I'm 100% accurate on the statistics and stuff, but just check me if I'm wrong. So
Take it with a grain
in the
of salt.
Bible, it basically told the farmers to, on each acre or square, or we'll say acre, each acre of land, you're going to have 6 plots of land that are fully seeded and fully watered and fully everything. And you're going to harvest, you're going to grow, and then you're going to harvest every year, okay? And the 7th square or acre is going to be left empty. It needs to replenish. It needs to have time to heal. And basically, the idea of instant gratification, we look at that 7th square that's empty and it's just sitting there the whole year with nothing, and we see, wait, we're not getting all of what we can get out of it. So now this is what happens. Now, and this still happens nowadays. Farmers still do this. The 7th square, sometimes they'll leave empty to have it, like the soils will be nourished and replenished. If you harvest that 7th one, you're going to get a good harvest the first year. And if you do that again, the next year, you can keep doing it, all 7. You can harvest all 7 for the next 14 years, which is a long time. And you'll still get a good harvest. Now, if you keep going, and on the 15th or 16th year or whatever, your harvest will become terrible. And then you're like, okay, well then I'll take a year to help it replenish. But no, the soils it'll take the soils 28 years to get back to where they used to be. So you're going to have instant gratification for that first 20, 15 years, and then you're going to plummet, and it's going to take a long time to get back out.
Right.
So in that same way, like when you're doing all these things of instant gratification, it might seem like the right thing to you for a long time. Like 5 years might seem like is a long time to us now, but then again, we're gonna live to be like 100. We're gonna live to be like 90. So we might dig this hole. Say we're instantly gratifying ourselves for 5 years, and it takes us 25 years to get out of that, and then finally heal from the things we did when we were 20.
Right. I mean, there's people that will do drugs a few times and they'll become addicted, and then it'll take them years to overcome that. Right. And like another one is porn, and we're gonna touch on this because I want to do a full episode devoted to it, just because it's very, very damaging to this generation. But that instant gratification, the science behind porn is the same brain in your brain, the same receptors are triggered and the same level are triggered as if you were doing black tar heroin. That's how addicting it is. So when you do it even one time, it's almost the equivalent of doing one of the most addictive drugs in the whole world. And so, yeah, so I think in relationships, especially when you get out of them, like for me, what did I went and drank and I did all this stuff to forget about it. And like, it ended up causing me more pain that I had to overcome in a few months than it would have if I didn't do that, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I only did it a few times, but like, what if I did it a few times and then kept going down this hole?
Yeah.
You know, like it would have been terrible for me.
Works for me too. Like when I went out with these girls after I got broken up with, I had my heart, half of it was attached to my ex-girlfriend.
Right.
I went on a date with another girl, and now there's some little bit of my brain is always going to just think about her. Not always, but I haven't healed. I haven't had time to heal. So I'm still like thinking about that person. Like go on another date, another part of my heart is attached to this girl. And then I go on another date, and then there's another girl. So
Right.
now it took me it's been like about a year, or it's been like 6 months where I haven't actually had a woman in my life. And I still will take a little bit more time, but I'm getting there where it's like it's taken me 6 months to kind of finally be alone with my thoughts without thinking about a woman.
Right. The next question I wanted to ask is, what are qualities of girls that you think we as godly men should avoid, or seen as red flags in a way? And this isn't like to
I
disrespect.
just want to go over like what our personal standards are.
Yeah, because I think it's important for people to like maybe realize like, oh, I like this girl, but she has some of these qualities, and they could maybe harm me.
All right, I'll
My
say
relationship
what my standards are. So like what the green flags are, because I feel like red flags are just like I don't want to. That's so picky. I feel like, or just like there are some things that are bad. Just the
Okay.
opposite of what I say is probably what a red
true,
flag is.
true.
Obviously, I want to be attracted to my wife, so I have to be attracted to you. I have to enjoy spending time with you, like when we're by ourselves. Yeah, I get along with everybody when we're in a group, but if we're alone and I can't get along with you, that's a problem. I want to be able to talk to you. I want to be able to talk to you without feeling judged. I want a woman who's modest. So I think it's like I wouldn't say it's a red flag because not everybody struggles, right? I want a girl who's modest. I think modest is hottest. That's the saying.
Modest is so in right now.
I want a woman who doesn't look with grief or revenge or hatred in their heart. I want that stuff is like a gossip, like somebody who talks down about others. And then lastly, somebody like who loves Jesus and respects others.
I agree with everything you just said. The only other things I had written down is I want a girl that works hard. I don't want someone that's just gonna like sit around, you know. Like I want a girl that, because I admire someone that works for something that they want to achieve that, and who has goals and like a dream and ambition for something. And the last topic that I want to touch on. What's wrong?
7%. You have 7%.
Okay. Let me know when we get to 3. All right. The last topic that I just wanted to really just quickly touch on is dating in college, and specifically long distance. I know you probably can't relate to this. Can you?
No, I've never done long distance.
There's just one thing I wanted to say to any couples that are going through long distance or are going to be going through long distance. And I don't want to hate on long distance, but I do have some opinions on it. I think college in general will test you as a person, whether you're in a relationship or not. I think it's when you go from living depending upon your parents to being on your own, it is one of the biggest periods of growth in your life because it shows you what's important to you. You don't have people telling you what to do. So you find out quickly what's important to you, what your priorities are, and you change a lot in those 9 months. And I think sometimes when we're in relationships in that time of growth, especially when we're apart from someone because it is long distance, it's important to take that time to grow on your own. I think you should look at your relationship going into long distance and ask yourself, is it a God-centered relationship? And if it's not, do you think it will survive? Because we just talked a lot about how if it is God-centered, God will bless and anoint it. But if it's not, long distance is one of the hardest things you do. If God is not in that, it's going to be very difficult to survive that. Does the person you're dating know who they are? Are they secure enough in themselves to stand on their morals and not be changed in impression by people around them? Because once again, like you changed a lot in college. And people are always going to change in life. Like no matter who you're dating, they're not going to be the same person 10 years from now that they are when you start dating them. But college, it's a very big point of change. It's not like over time suddenly. So if you are going to be dating in college, I just really want to implore and encourage you to choose someone that is secure in themselves, and who loves God and that you know can make it work with.
3%.
Okay.
All right.
But yeah, I think that's like pretty much everything.
I love it.
Do you have anything to add?
I would just say that long distance, it's kind of like what Paul said. I guess you could treat it as a time of singleness use it as trying to devote yourself to Christ by being alone. And hey, Jacob worked for Leah a total of 14 years. Now he wasn't like with her, but like, all right, sorry.
No, I'm giving you thumbs up. I'm saying I'm agreeing. But yeah, guys,
that's all we got for you guys.
Thank you for listening to this episode. We're gonna go film another episode, so make sure you guys stay tuned for that. Remember, Friday at noon, the episodes drop. But until next time, I'm Gavin.
I'm Brandon.
And this is the Grain of Salt Podcast, the #1 podcast that you
should take
with a grain of salt. Until next, guys, we'll see you.
Peace.